Welcome, everybody, to The Secret to Growing Great Writers, Maximizing Feedback. I am so proud to introduce Kristina Smekens, who is the president and lead consultant of Smekens Education, and Gann, who is the district and customer engagement director at Writable. I am also from Writable. You can follow Kristina and Kara on Twitter. And a little bit about Writable, where Kara and I are so happy to be from. Writable is everything you need to teach literacy and organize your writing instruction, all the way from K to grade 12 and in higher ed as well. So Writable has over 1,000 customizable assignments and prompts, or you can create your own from scratch. There's over 300 readings that are alongside assignments. You can get growth data on your student writing, and we have many feedback tools, including self and peer review, which we'll talk about today, and AI tools that help you save time grading and giving feedback. So Writable facilitates practice, guided feedback, and grading, formal and informal assessments, customized curriculum and learning, and is integrated with major LMSs and Google Classroom. So it really guides teachers and students to improve your outcomes. So, a little bit about our wonderful speakers today. Kristina Smekens has built a reputation for enthusiasm, humor, and common sense to equip K-12 educators with practical, demystifying strategies for teaching reading and writing. As president and lead consultant for Smekens Education, she is a leader in developing new strategies to help teachers meet the demands for today's college and career-ready standards. She and her associates share those strategies with teachers across the United States. I know some of you may have seen her on edWeb before, and beyond through on-site professional development, virtual and in-person seminars, and an always growing pool of print, digital, and video resources. Kristina has authored more than 50 books, guides, and classroom tools designed to help teachers implement best practice literacy strategies. The Comprehension Playbook, Launching the Writers Workshop, grades K through 2, and Launching Writers Workshop, grades 3 through 12 are among the most popular titles. I will be linking to our resource guide where you can find her books and all of her resources. And Kara Gann has enjoyed 30 plus years in the educational field as a teacher, instructional coach, and district administrator. She joined the private sector to support and influence educational products that support learning, and she is passionate about reading and writing and how it directly impacts student achievement. She's a recognized thought leader, having presented at national conferences and is published in educational magazines and blogs. And as a customer and district engagement leader at Writable, she helps teachers, districts, and partners create successful writing experiences in all academic disciplines. I am so proud to introduce Kristina and Kara, and I will be in chat answering any of your questions, and I will hand it over to you two now.
Thank you, Tess. Thank you very much. And we are thrilled to be here. And I am particularly thrilled to be here with Kristina. As you can tell, she is extremely impressive. And it is my honor to get to co-present with her today. For all the resources, I know Tess talked about those. This is the actual address to the resources. It will be appearing in chat throughout the presentation today. So don't worry, this isn't the only time that you will see this. The topics that we're going to cover today are going to be all focused around feedback. We're going to be talking about maximizing your opportunities for feedback, shifting the instructional focus from grading to growing writers, something that I'm particularly passionate about, balancing summative and formative assessments, video-based feedback, facilitating feedback into 4 steps, differentiation and additional support, and then we're going to have some time at the end for questions and resources. However, we don't want you to not ask your questions throughout the session. We have a team of people who are on chat, checking with everything. They will stop us and talk to us if there's something that they want us to address in person. So we are thrilled to have you here, and this is our agenda, and we'll be going fast and furious for the next hour while you're here. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and turn the slide deck over to Kristina.
Awesome. Thanks, Kara. All right, everybody. So when we talk about feedback, when we talk about improving, in this case, writers, but everything we're going to talk about is applicable if you're giving feedback to mathematicians or scientists, if you're the art teacher, the band teacher, 5-year-olds, 15-year-olds, it doesn't matter. Here's what we need to embrace. There are 9 opportunities for us to give kids feedback. I say us, meaning us, yes, as teachers, but there are 3 sources, 3 different people who can give kids, writers, feedback. The teacher in the classroom or any other educator, push and help, EL support resource. But peers can also provide feedback for writers, and the writer himself is a source of feedback. Okay, well, but not only are these 3 sources of feedback, but I think another something to remember is that you can hear, you can receive feedback during all 3 phases of any product, assignment, project, experience, anything, before they start, while they're doing it, and when they're done. And I think sometimes as teachers, we forget we are not the only one that kids should be getting feedback from. We kind of take on this daunting task of, I got to grade all these papers. I got to read and test all to write. And whoa. Let's really recognize we could maximize feedback if we look at all 9 of these opportunities. Yeah, 9 boxes there, peeps. 9 opportunities. Let me just quickly put something in each of those boxes for you. First, before we start the assignment, the writing, the task, the project, well, of course, the teacher is going to announce what the task is, but surely you're creating some kind of criteria or rubric. You're telling them what to put in it. Okay, so that's before they start. The teacher's already giving them information that will guide what they create. Not to mention the peers, the students themselves are involved in this, creating rubrics with kids so they're kid friendly. All right, now wait. Let's take a moment and let's think about everything I'm talking about and leave the world of writing for just a second and jump on one of those reality shows like The Next Great Baker or Project Runway or something like that, where this is exactly what happens. All 9 of these opportunities for feedback happen on every one of those shows. That is the epitome of what we should be doing in our classroom when assigning, giving feedback, and assessing our writers. Heidi Klum or Alyssa Milano stands in front of the designers on Project Runway and announces, here's the next project, goes through the criteria, and the peers, the designers, have a chance to ask questions, right? Okay, then they go to the store, they buy their fabric, or they start to bake their cake, or whatever they're going to do, and wait, they get feedback during the process. This is the most valuable feedback. That's when the judges come in while they're in the middle of assembling whatever the garment is, or baking the cake, or designing whatever it is. And then all of a sudden, they get feedback from either the judge, Tim Gann, they're getting all of this. And you know what it does? It guides their revisions. Yeah. Not to mention, it's not just the judges or the teacher giving feedback. During the process, you know who else is? Their peers. How many times while designing this or decorating this cake does one say to the other, hey, do you like this better or this better? Should I do it like this or this? Should I fold it? Should I do this? And they're getting boom, boom. And you know what it does? Guides, revision, changes, and improvement during the process. Not to mention, how many times is the designer himself holding out his own garment and she's critiquing her own work and constantly self-evaluating? I think we are all fully aware of the after product opportunity for feedback. Well, yeah, this obviously is rubric scores. And on those shows, that's when they decide who's cut, who's on, who's off. But it's not just quantitative data or feedback like a rubric score. It's also anecdotal, qualitative, from the judges, from the experts, huge. And as the teacher, this is often our writing comments all over their papers. Yeah, but it's not just the teacher who after the product can give the feedback, not just the judge. Sometimes we even ask for peers. Well, what do you think she did? How would you evaluate or assess or judge this? Not to mention on those shows, there's always that exit interview, right? The self-evaluation. What do you think about being cut? What do you think about this idea? So all of those ideas in terms of 9 opportunities for feedback, I question teachers, are we using them all? Because every one of these drives students to be better, to grow whatever the product is they're creating, making, baking, designing, or writing. Kara, how do these 9 opportunities for feedback fit into Writable? I shared best practices. You tell us what it looks like in Writable.
All right, so I will go ahead and start our video. And I think it's really important to note that in Writable, you have multiple ways to provide feedback, just like Kristina mentioned. Let's take a look at any time during the writing, and the teacher can go into the assignment. You'll see a dashboard that's going to appear that'll give the teacher a quick view of where the student is in the writing process. It'll take a look at the skills, the standards, the category. They can give some of that anecdotal feedback into the student just with a quick a view of the writing. So when they click in there, you can see the current draft. We also have some AI tools that are included in Writable. Grammar aid is one area. You can see the video of the individual clicking over that. We have revision age, which gives them feedback about structure. And we have originality checker, which gives them some details around similarity. The teacher can also go into the full review and provide feedback around the individual rubric items, which is a little bit more formal. The teacher also has the ability to look at the AI tools inside that full review, and then they can also click in between different writing activities because the revision process is ongoing and oftentimes in multiple papers and in multiple classes. We're going to take a look at the next piece where the student can see the feedback. So the student can receive feedback at any time during their writing process through the notification bar in the right-hand corner. When they look at that, they log in, they can click the Revise Now button, and they can make the revision based on what the feedback was from their teacher. They also have the ability to see the feedback that they provided themselves in the self-review, and then also the feedback that they provided themselves in the peer review. They can select things that they focused on and targeted through the revision process. Again, we're in the self-review again. They're taking a look at their own writing. They're looking at the review of it and providing that type of feedback, Kristina, that you mentioned that happens from the beginning through the writing all the way into the product area. For those of you that don't know about Writable, I do want to mention that you can have a free account at app.writable.com. Okay, we're moving back to Kristina, and she's going to share a little bit about the importance of feedback and the research around it.
Okay, so I'm sharing best practices, and Kara's coming in and saying how Writable is honoring those. So let's move back into best practices, and then we'll see how Writable supports and really recognizes those. Okay, so John Hattie, let's look at the quote who said it first. John Hattie, Mr. Visible Learning, Mr. Meta-Analysis of Educational Research. This was the guy that did the research on all the educational research. And you know what he noticed? He noticed that feedback was among the most powerful influences on achievement. This idea of feedback, everything we're talking about, makes one of the biggest differences in growing writers, readers, mathematicians, scientists, you name it. Most programs and methods that worked best were based on heavy dollops of feedback. And here's the piece I want you to note. Feedback during the process. I think this is the piece, at least for me as a former teacher, I missed. I was giving a lot of feedback after they turned it in, when you know what? They don't really care that much. Yeah, and they don't have opportunity to make changes. Feedback during the process. That's maximizing your instruction and your assessment. Now, we're talking about writing. So let's talk about the writer conference for a second, because the writer conference, when the kids are writing, whether they're typing, they're drawing, they're labeling, they're handwriting, regardless of what they're doing during the workshop, the teacher's conferring, right? Walking around. All right, this is Carl Anderson, Mr. Writers Workshop Conference. He's our guru. And he says, conferring with writers. Hey, make this easier. Talking with writers when they're creating it. during the workshop in your class, that's the most critical writing workshop role we play. Our job is to give feedback as they're creating. That's our most critical role, you guys. Okay, so all right, you're talking about conferences, Kristina, and all of a sudden I'm having this horrible taste in my mouth because you don't understand how bad my conference situation is. It takes me, 20 minutes to talk to one kid. I see 3 kids in a day or a writer's workshop. It takes me 2 weeks to get through the class, and conferencing with kids, I hate it. Okay, wait a minute. Let's change our thinking a little bit. There's nothing wrong with what I just described and you may be doing, but I want you to name that as a product conference. That's a conference where you talk to an individual, one writer, very thoroughly about all of his product, right? Summative, we talk about all, and I'm totally focused on making this piece better. And because depending on how old they are and how much they wrote and how strong or weak it is, this could be a lengthy conversation. And for that reason, it doesn't happen very often. Okay, now that's a product conference. Here's what I want you to know. It is totally appropriate to have these infrequent product conferences in our writer's workshop, but these cannot be every day because they don't happen enough. No, our kids need to hear from us more often. Yes, shorter, but more often. They need feedback. Why? Because heavy dollops of feedback, John Hattie says, this is the greatest influencer in achievement. So, okay, well then what is it? What are we doing if it's not talk about the writing process? See, that's during. That's when they're creating, whatever they're creating. That's when we talk to them. And you know what I want us to do? I want us to stop thinking about making this writing better. It's not about this writing. It's about the writer sitting in front of you, standing in front of you, on the screen in front of you. My job? Teach myself out of a job. They don't need me anymore. Why? Because I'm building skills not to improve just this piece, but every piece this kid writes forevermore. My point is this: if you talk to kids about a skill, not this writing, but a skill evident in this writing, you could talk to a group of kids because they all lack evidence. They all lack explanation. Everybody wrote the end. Hope you liked it at the end. This could be a group conversation where you talk about a skill and then they all look to apply it into their own writing. I'll tell you what, if you keep this writer focused, you have a much bigger vision on teaching writing because you're growing writers. Yeah, we're thinking about not just this piece, but all future pieces. When you talk about a skill, you don't talk about the whole piece. It's faster, it's shorter, it can happen more frequently. Our kids would rather have us give them feedback for moments daily than 20 minutes once a month at some table. Yeah, process conferences. That's what we're talking about. These happen within the workshop when they're creating the project, the product, when they're doing the work. You know what this does? You giving feedback during this gives them second chances. They don't necessarily want to hear from us 2 weeks after they turned in the product and we finally got all of it graded and send it back to them. Because they can't make any changes, it's too late. The power in during process feedback is they still have a chance. Hey, I'm not just talking about teacher feedback. I'm talking about peer evaluation and feedback during the process. Give them an opportunity to do that. Hey, how about self-evaluation? If you're going to have kids do any self-evaluation, don't give it to them at the very end. Give it to them before they're done so that they can then realize, woo, I left that out. Woo, I forgot that. Ooh, I need to make that better. And they still have time. People, second chances. Your power and feedback is in that during process conversation. Now, Kara, you take best practice and you talk to us about what it looks like in Writable.
Thank you, Kristina. Yes, and so one of the things that I think is most powerful about Writable, and if we'll go ahead and start this video here on student revision, is that exactly what she was saying. The students have the ability to get the feedback from their peers, their self, and their teachers right away. So the student can log into the writing assignment. Up in the right-hand corner, they'll see the notifications. When they look at the notification, it's the feedback that was provided. They can revise the writing right through in the middle of it. They're not waiting until the end of the writing to get the feedback. They can look at the feedback that's provided by them, either the teacher, the self-review, or even the peer review multiple times on their revision. It's about that process again. They're looking at the feedback, determining what they're focusing on. They're selecting that. They're going back and re-exploring on their own self-review of how are they doing aligned with the teacher's expectations. They can provide additional notes to themselves in here. Again, they're submitting it and they're moving it back into the teacher's view. They also have the AI tools, so they can take a look at the revision aid regarding the structure and organization of their paper. How are they doing with the similarity? The teacher has the ability to turn on and off these tools as they wish. So we love the way that the student revision can be done exactly in the moment, not necessarily at the end. So, Kristina, we're going to have you go back and talk a little bit more about how we're going to focus from grading to just growing great writers.
Well, everything you just said and everything you just showed is feeding this pipeline. Teach yourself out of a job, giving kids opportunity to receive feedback from teacher, self, or peers, receive feedback and make changes. Why? Biggest influencer in achievement and growth. We've got to shift our thinking from grading their writing to growing writers. Grading writing is about this product. Hey, I would change my tune. I would change my tune and make it all about this piece. If on game day, on state national assessment day, they said, turn in a finished product and we'll score it. It's one sitting all by yourself, go. So all the work we're doing every day isn't just about today's writing. It's about teaching skills for writers forevermore. Growing writers, not just fixing or grading their writing, not just marking everything wrong. And there's a lot that's weak. I acknowledge that. All right. So, Kristina, you told me I could assess in 9 opportunities. Got that. But what am I supposed to be assessing? And how do you make that go faster? And then how do I communicate that? Because writing all those comments saves a lot of time. I don't disagree. So let's talk through some opportunities, some options here, and really look at this idea of growing writers. That's what we want to do today and every day. Improve this skill today and every day. Do this. That's what we're looking for. All right. So what I want you to recognize is everything we've been talking about honors what research calls the feedback loop. Everything that Writable does honors this feedback loop. So you give an assignment and the kids write it, draw it, label it, list it, type it, create it. They start it. Okay, now we're not going to just collect it and assess it. What we need to do is while they're creating it and before the due date is give them that feedback. That's the power when they still have time to make revisions, to improve, to ask questions. Yeah, then that assessment piece, that after product feedback comes in. You guys, the goal is speed. The goal is speed. We've got to have frequent and efficient. Okay, I'm going to go back a couple slides because you know where we lose it? Oh, we're really good at assigning. You know where we lose it? This arrow. That arrow. The amount of time that arrow takes from the time they turn it in or hit submit until we give them feedback. Days, weeks, months before they then do a revision. They don't even remember what their choices were. Their decision, why they did what they did that you're asking about. You guys, we got to somehow make this feedback loop go faster. How in the world do we make it go faster? All right. We've got to recognize that regardless of who's given the feedback, teacher, peer, self, regardless of before, during, or after, this feedback loop has to happen. Boom, 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 faster. Kristina, everything sounds good on the edWebinar. How do you do that? All right. Honoring that loop can happen in real time during the workshop. What we want to do is question what you are assessing. Because my guess is, with really good intentions, most teachers are assessing everything, every time. Now, wait a minute. Determine the level of assessment. How much time did they spend on the quick write or the bell ringer, the morning work? You know what? Sometimes our assessment, our feedback and assessment is simply, you turned it in, credit, you submitted it. Now, that's not always, but hey, that means you don't read and write all over it. No, determine your level of assessment. All right, I just want to grade this, assess this, evaluate this, give feedback on the gist, the overall message, or maybe the development of the message. How many details, whether it's picture details or word details or sentence details, and the accuracy, content accuracy, just score for that. You mean you don't fix when they have a fragment? No, because I said I'm only looking for content. That's what you know how you can go faster? Don't grade for everything. Oh, I know some of you are freaking out at that thought. What? But if I don't point it out, they'll never learn. They're not learning. We're not their copy editors. We're their teachers. People, come on. Be smart here. You fix it all. You spent 4 hours of your weekend fixing, correcting, writing. They get it back, and their first question is, do I have to keep this? And you're wondering, did you even read the comments? No. Assess based on the level of what you're looking for. Maybe you want to score just for ideas and organization. You guys, if you know the 6 traits, this is where they're powerful, because we might just score for ideas, or just ideas and organization, or content area teachers, ideas, organization, and word choice for domain-specific words. You don't have to score for every noun, pronoun disagreement and every S that has an apostrophe. You don't have to mark all of that. So maybe you score without looking at conventions. But I agree, there are times you do score a whole piece for everything. I don't disagree. My point is, I don't score everything for everything every time. That's not how you're going to pick up your pace. No, because when it's a first draft, I'm really all about ideas and organization. Who cares that that's a weak word? It's probably not even going to be in the second draft. That's the wrong word. So this idea of boom, 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 boom. Be conscious of the level of assessment. How much feedback do you want to give? Determine implies choice, meaning you don't have to always score for everything. Tell the children what you're looking for. This helps you then give that direct feedback, that directive information in whatever you're going to tell them, and communicate to them. I told you I was looking for idea development. I was looking for transitions. I was looking for this. So I've now read through what you turned in, and now I'm going to communicate to you what I noticed. Well, my mode of feedback for most of us would be writing comments on their papers, right? Well, that's one way, but there are others. Yes, you could give a rubric score, but rubric scores are mildly helpful. I say mildly because have you ever gotten a state score back for some kid and you're like, he got a 3. Why did he get a 3? Why not a 4? What? He got a 4? How is this a 4? How come not a 3? You know what would be better than rubric scores coming from my classroom teacher would be scores with comments, rationale, description. Yeah. And you can give these comments face-to-face in person during Writers Workshop. You can do it in a video chat, a Zoom or a Google Meet. And of course, you could do it with recorded video comments. More about that here in just a minute. Let me pause now and reiterate, it's all about efficiency. The goal is they try it, boom, feedback, boom, boom, boom. The faster you can make that loop go, bigger the influence you have on improving the writers in front of you. You guys, we can't go 2 weeks between conversations and 4 weeks in between comments and writing. All right, Kara, how does this look on Writable?
Absolutely. Okay, so let's go ahead and start the video and let's take a peek at how a teacher can give that just-in-time feedback that's not necessarily aligned to the rubric. It's in the moment. You're sitting at your desk, you open up Writable, you can take a look at the student's paper. Inside the paper, you see their writing draft. You can take a look through the AI reporting pieces that are included in Writable. Here's a piece of grammar aid if you wanted to see, well, where are they struggling with their grammar? We can take a look again at the organizational structure and then the originality piece. At that point, you can just add a quick little bit of feedback to them. That instant conferencing feedback is right there. And you can see right how in the video that they've got the similarity piece in there. You have the ability to turn on supports for the student at the individual area, writing that comment to them, pressing the send button. It's going to appear into the notifications for the student. They get that just-in-time feedback that Kristina was talking about. They can get another look at the rubric if they want to at that point. But again, it goes back to that revision, that continual feedback and revision that we are looking at. I'd like us to just take a quick pause. We've given quite a bit of information. We've been about 30 minutes into this, and we've got a small discussion. We want to know what you're realizing about feedback versus grading. the feedback loop, and your own frequency of feedback. And all answers are safe. Feel free to add those into the chat so others can see it, and we will move along.
Okay. If you didn't hear Kara say this, you got to take note. Just-in-time feedback. That's what makes a difference. Just in time before they start writing about the wrong topic. Just in time before they start. But don't wait till they're done to give them feedback. They're going to be like, where were you 2 weeks ago, 2 days ago, 2 hours ago? All right, we've talked a lot about the formative assessment here piece in terms of feedback, casual, in a conference or on Writable, anecdotal feedback that you can type in. All right, let's now pivot and let's talk a little bit more about the summative assessment, because the whole idea of feedback at the end of the product, we can use the rubric before, of course, and be referencing it during, but then the rubric at the end, or in the process, we're giving them kind of in between rubric, temporary, current rubric scores, kind of a thing. So let's talk just for a few minutes about the rubric piece. Okay, so you have provided instruction, okay, and now it's time to give kids an assignment. Well, before you say, here's your assignment, go, you have to describe the assignment, the quality of the assignment, the rubric criteria. What are you scoring for? And what only are you scoring for? You don't have to score for everything. Just because there are 6 traits don't mean you got to score for all 6. No. So you build a rubric with those kids. Kid-friendly language. They understand it. Different levels. All right. Here's the assignment. This is the rubric, or whatever the criteria is. This is its due date. I've already told them what I'm assessing, when I'm assessing it, and I'll tell them I'm going to give you feedback within Writable. I'm going to give you feedback within your hard copies. I'm going to give you feedback via video. This idea of then, as the kids start working, they start working. Don't wait till they're done. Come on, Carl Anderson, most crucial role you play is when they're writing in your class. You're walking around, you're conferring with kids. Little, quick, frequent and efficient feedback, precise feedback. Give them a chance, a second chance, a third chance to improve it before you then take it on that due date to assess it. Hey, Kara, walk us through the rubrics on Writable.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kristina. So let's go ahead and start the video, and let's talk about why rubrics matter in Writable. First of all, the rubrics are tied to all of the data on the back end. So we must make sure that we do have some rutables tied into it. Each assignment in Writable has a rubric, but the teacher has the ability to adjust the rubric at their leisure. They can adjust the weight of the rubric. They can also delete a rubric item. They can add additional rubric item. Writable has hundreds of rubric items inside the platform that they can select. They also can just add it to the assignment quickly. If they don't like any of the rubric, you can go into the Explore rubrics and pick a full rubric. You can see through the video how simple it is. You pick your rubric. You have the ability to use just a district rubric if your district has set that up. In this video, they've got the district rubric selected. Use the rubric. It replaces the entire rubric, and it's in the assignment at that time. If you've adjusted the rubric and you want to use it later, you go ahead and save the rubric. And if you're an administrator, you can make the rubric discoverable for every single teacher. You do need to have that rubric in order for you to know what you're grading towards, but at the same time, you have a lot of flexibility in order to create those student-friendly rubrics to align to your assignment.
Fantastic. Okay. So now I want to pitch an idea to you in terms of how you communicate that information, okay? How we're going to communicate the information to the kids, whether it's the rubric or it's that summative or a more formative and casual conversation, conference during writing time. And I want to reiterate, hey, we need to do the formal after writing product. Yes, absolutely. You need the summative, absolutely. But we also need that formative. It's all about that balance. Why? Because it's too late if the only time they got your feedback was when it's done and you cannot do it again. All right. So during process feedback, that gives them second chances. What if that feedback came via video? What if it came via video? Yeah, I want to walk you through this idea of a video-based feed. Instead of writing all over their papers, or instead of at times writing typing into all that anecdotal information into Write. What if you did it via video, where all you need is your webcam and your device? I'm going to tell you right now. How long does it take? As long as it takes to say it. Yeah, and it's efficient. And how many kids would appreciate that kind of feedback, where sometimes they come up to you and they say, "What'd you write?" They can't even read your handwriting. Yeah. Let me show you an example of me giving my student Kara some feedback. Let's play that video. So this is in Writable.
Yeah, this is in Writable. Yes, thank you, Kristina. This is in Writable, and the teacher is actually taking a look at the writing, reviewing it with the rubric. You can see that they're looking at adding sentence comments, some feedback comments for the student, which is extremely flat. But then at the very bottom, once they do the rubric match, add some more comments right on the writing, you're going to see that Kristina's going to give me some feedback built right into Writable. So let's listen to Kristina give me feedback on my writing.
Hey, Kara, it's Mrs. Smekens, and I just read your research piece on getting enough sleep. And your trait of organization is strong in that you have all three parts: intro, body, conclusion. Well done. So now we want to look at your trait of ideas. And I want you to recognize that you have a lot of information. You do not need to do any more research, girl. You got enough facts, you've got quotes, you've got citations, you have information. What we now need is explanation. Pretty much after every sentence in your body paragraphs, you could add another sentence. The explanation. Why? How? Why is that important? Anybody ever told you a joke before and you didn't get it? And then when they explained the joke, you were like, "Oh, yeah, I get that." And that's what you need to do. You learned this information and you drop in a fact, and then you just go on to the next fact. And the reader needs, "I don't get it. Why is that important? Explain it." You need to add those explanatory sentences in between your factual sentences within your body paragraphs.
So as a writer, Kristina, just having that type of feedback from a teacher means the world to me, because I can actually see what you've written to me in the rubric, but also hear your voice and make that personal connection with you, because I know you really did read my writing. I put effort into it, and you're commenting on how I can grow my writing skills. So I love that part of Writable, is that ability to do feedback so quickly with a quick video.
And I don't want anybody thinking that video-based feedback is cheating or the lazy way out or anything like that, because you can do it in addition to the anecdotal comments, as Kara was showing you in that video. You can do it in addition to rubric scores based on criteria we built as a whole class. But you guys, just stop and just think about the power of video-based feedback. How valuable that the kids can hear you talk through your comment, as opposed to, "I don't understand what she even means by this." Awkward phrasing. What's awkward? Why is it awkward? What should I? That kind of vague or flat anecdotal information sometimes needs clarification. Man, you could do that with these video based. Now, here's what I want you to know about communicating via videos and why this is an amazing facet to any feedback you give kids. Okay. 80% of the internet is video based. 100 million hours of videos are watched on Facebook. 100 million hours a day. People, these kids are used to video, Snapchat. If somebody Googles something, they're 4 times as more likely to watch the video than read the article. Now, I'm not saying these are lazy people. It's how they can gain information. Maybe it's more efficient, but it also might be more clear at times. 53% of people feel more favorable a company that has a video on their website than just straight text. Here's what I want you to know. By giving kids video-based feedback, this is authentic communication. The very kids sitting in our rooms are going to be the employees at these companies. This isn't cheating. This isn't easy, lazy. No, This is powerful mode of communication. And for some of us, it's how we're going to be able to give feedback faster. If I could just say it, you just needed permission. You just needed someone to give you permission to not have to write it on all their papers. 43% of people want to see more video content on a company's website. And companies know this. That's why marketers know if we add a video, your revenue is going to grow up to 50%. You guys, why should you use the video-based feedback? Why is it popular? It's easy. It's ongoing. It's efficient. It's powerful. Oh, yeah. Feedback does not have to just be handwritten comments. Handwritten comments. So give us an answer here to this poll question. Have you tried the video-based feedback in your classroom? Has anybody ever done this? It's a yes or a no. Let's click. Let's get some quick live timing here. And so many of us are like thinking, shut up. This is even an option. I love it. I didn't even know. Huge. Huge. Okay. So now I want to transition. What am I giving feedback on? Whether it's during the process, when we're face-to-face in classroom in a writer's workshop or Zooming, or it's after, it's that summative. What am I giving feedback on? And this is where you want to honor the 4 steps, the 4 facets of giving feedback in whatever method of communication that you're doing this in. We want to be conscious that when you go into that conference or conversation, I'm going to talk about it as a during writing kind of conversation or feedback that way. You want to remind them of, okay, I was looking for this, and ask them, what do you know about this skill? What were you trying to do with this skill? Then go right into asking them, inviting them to read a part that demonstrates that skill. You know what we don't want? Kids don't need to read the whole thing to us. No, time. No, just invite them to show where they tried the skill you instructed on. Have them read or share or point to that portion. Yeah, and then we're going to give them some compliments and comments. If we're not in person, obviously you can't invite them in a live situation, but nonetheless, you want to still make sure you're only looking at what you said you were going to look at. All right? So we invite or review what we're going to look at. Then we go into step 2. And you know what step 2 is? The compliment. Okay, this is not a make them feel good. This is they did whatever that is really well by accident. So tell them to do it again on purpose next time. Remember, it's not about this piece. It's about every piece they write forevermore. You want to give them specific feedback in the form of a compliment. What did they do well? And again, 6 trait friends out there, this is where the 6 traits are huge. You can give them trait-based feedback, but whether you use the traits or not, here's what's most important. Do not tell them that you liked it. Do not say, I really like this, but it's not about you. It's not about pleasing my teacher. It's about the reader. Everything we do in our writing is to make our writing more clear for a reader. So when you give a compliment like all your sentences are about spiders, you stayed on topic, that's so important for a reader, not I like it, good job. It's not about you, the teacher. You grouped information that goes together. Oh, that kind of organization helps a reader follow your thinking. Give them specific feedback on the impact for their readers. They're not writing to their teacher. We're trying to create authentic writers here. These sentences, and touch them, point at them, highlight them, they all start differently. This makes them more interesting for your reader, as opposed to and then, and every sentence starting the same. Trait-based feedback, if you can tag it with a trait, if you know the traits and your students know the traits, but more importantly, specific and how it helps the reader. Kara, how can you translate this into Writable?
yes, this is a screenshot from an actual feedback document from a student. So you can notice that the teacher is able to highlight sections of the writing. Each of the pieces can be tagged to the rubric so that the students can see exactly where the comments are made in alignment with the rubric. You also have, again, the ability to select from the sentence stems because we know that targeted, specific feedback is critical to growing our writers. And then again, the teacher also has the ability to roll over each star in order to see what the expectations are for each of the rubric. I think the important thing to note is that you want to give targeted feedback. And then I love what you're saying, Kristina, about the compliments that you can give in the writing, because we all know that we want to work harder when we are seeing what we're doing well, not just where we need to improve. And we're thrilled that on the next slide, Kristina has put together some compliment cards that you have access to in our resources. So Kristina, if you want to share any additional details about those, I think these are super powerful for feedback for writers.
Okay, so Tess will drop the link in the chat, I'm sure, but you can download it and print it on cardstock front to back it. What is it? It is specific compliments. It's not, I like it, good job, this part is funny. It's very specific trait, organized feedback. It's the things that, yes, when you read it, you're like, yeah, that's the compliment I want to give, to tell them to do it again on purpose next time. It's what I want them to keep doing for every writing they do in the future. But it's also not only organized by traits, but it's organized primary or low-level ELL, level 1, level 2, drawers, labelers, listers, and then intermediate and secondary writers, higher levels of ELL, organized by the traits, very specific compliments. And every one of them say how this skill helps your readers. So for those of you that are like, I love this idea, but I'm not wired that way, I just say, I like it. I don't know what else to say. Print these off. Carry these with you as you conference with your writers during Writers Workshop. Hang it off your lanyard. Here it is, people. Here it is. Let's stop telling them we like it. Let's tell them why it's so powerful and to do it again. Okay, but it isn't all pretty, I know. So now we get to step 3. Here we go. You got to comment. You got to identify the one skill that in the little bit he read, right? Because they didn't read the whole thing. For me, they only read a little bit, because I'm going to give feedback, because then they're going to try and play, and then I'm going to ask them to read something else, and I'm going to give feedback, and that feedback loop is going to go on and on and on during the process. And I'm going to give them comment. The one skill that would have made this piece better, and I'm going to talk to the writer, because if he did it in this piece or didn't do it, he probably did or didn't do it and will in all of his future pieces. So the one skill, yeah, tell him what trait. Okay, and it might be the same trait that was a compliment. Your trait of ideas, you stayed on topic. Your trait of ideas is also your comment, but there's not enough. Everything you wrote is on topic, but it's not enough. And so what trait? All right, and sometimes it's about a strategy, something about how they did their pre-write or their brainstorm, or how they did a revision, or maybe it's something, a strategy or a habit of the writer, or it could be something very particular to the genre. But give them one comment, one area of improvement. And this is where teachers really start to question. 1, there are 97 things wrong with it. How do I let it go? I'll tell you how, because you remember Lucy Calkins. And because our guru of all things writing says if the piece of writing gets better, because you told them all 97 things to make it better, but the writer has learned nothing, because you were just their copy editor and they're just making changes. And you know what? It's so much easier if you just tell me what to change. But I don't actually learn. And I don't learn to apply it for my future writings. It's just fixing this piece. And when he then writes again on another day, if this skill isn't, you wasted your time. You wasted their time. You wasted everybody's time. I'm not saying this is Lucy Calkins. It's about improving the skill. Oh, you see it here in this writing, but it's about talking to the writer. It's not just about fixing this one piece. Now, again, I know some of you are like, but there's so much wrong. Hey, think of it this way. And the faster they get it back to you, and you can give them feedback again. Boom, 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 boom. That's the goal. That's the goal. The feedback loop moving fast through this. You can take note also that although I only gave one piece of feedback, I noticed all 96 weaknesses. so it's going to drive my future mini lessons. Okay, I've been noticing in our writing, even though I didn't tell them during conferences, I've been noticing in our writing, we need to work on the skill. So it's not like you didn't notice it, you just didn't tell the children. All right. Otherwise, we're just giving them a laundry list of changes to make, and they would much prefer we do that. Get her done kind of writing. Just tell me what to change so I can be done. Oh, I want to teach. I want to teach myself out of a job. Speaking of getting out, you got to wrap up this conversation. You got to keep these during process in class conversations quick. You got to keep them quick, short. And one way to keep them short is don't tell them 97 things wrong. Tell them one thing wrong. That'll keep this thing moving. It's all about the writer hearing your comment, your suggestion, and then boom, diving back into that draft. What are you going to do next? If you want to make a note, make a note. If you're keeping something in your LMS or a conference log, fine, make a note. Don't make it about the note. Make it about conversations with writers. So, which step in giving feedback do you struggle with the most? Inviting them to only read a portion? Giving them a specific compliment? Telling them only one comment? Keeping it short? What are your greatest struggles? What are your greatest struggles? You're filling out that poll. You can see each other's. I'm going to just presume most of it is that keeping it to one comment. All right. As we start to wrap this up, I want to honor that when you come out of looking at their writing, okay, and I've given them feedback, but I also realize, okay, we're needing some additional support. They might need more than just a couple comments from their teacher, live video on the paper in Writable. And so this idea of, I gave them feedback, but I need to give them more instruction. They need more support. Kara, what does this kind of information look like? If a teacher is getting this, you need more support information, what does that look like in Writable?
Yes, and I want to mention also that for me as a teacher, one of the biggest struggles that I had was figuring out where I needed to focus. Because when I have all these papers in front of me, it doesn't make any sense to me until it gets moved up into a higher level. So let's go ahead and start the video. This is a video where I don't need to speak. It's going to be able to have some volume with it. So let's take a listen.
Feedback is the key to actionable data and student improvement in Writable. All rubrics are tagged by category, skill, and standard, so when feedback is given or generated by our AI tools, it creates automatic data on student writing progress. Teachers and school leaders can then gain insights into student reading and writing skills by using Writable's data and reporting tools. The data you'll see is actionable, timely, and can be used in your instructional planning. You'll find helpful data in 3 locations across Writable. In assignment dashboards for insights into how students are performing on a single assignment, in the growth report for insight about growth over time between 2 assignments or assessments, and in the proficiency and recommendation report, where you'll see insight on student performance by group with recommended tasks and assignments to support students on the skills they may be struggling with. From an assignment dashboard, educators can easily monitor each student's writing progress during and after an assignment, seeing who is on watch and on target. This is your hub for monitoring class progress. The data on this dashboard can help you grade, spot gaps, and give in-the-moment feedback, all in a student's current draft. Writable's AI insights will highlight areas for improvement, helping teachers grade more effectively and efficiently. Growth reports make benchmarking and progress monitoring easy by comparing data from 2 assignments or assessments side by side. With the growth report, teachers and school leaders can plan instruction and monitor growth with class or student level data views. They can also access results by category, skill, standard, or overall assignment to help form a complete picture of students' knowledge and growth. Proficiency and recommendation reports provide an at-a-glance view of a class's proficiency in reading and in 3 key writing modes: argument, informational, and narrative. With the Proficiency and Recommendation Report, teachers and school leaders can use proficiency data from multiple assignments to form differentiated writing groups and access data-informed assignment recommendations that build a student's skill mastery. Whatever report you're viewing in Writable, exporting data by class, teacher, or building is simple. Your data can be used to inform conferences, coach teachers, or transfer grades to your district data dashboards. The data and reporting features in Writable allow you to easily understand where every student is at in their learning journey so that you can help them meet their goals. Create a free teacher account to explore Writable's data and reporting at writable.com.
So much information, Kristina, at a teacher's fingertips for them to know how to create the lessons and move forward with growing writers.
Great, great. Okay, so I want to throw in a few other best practices and teacher responses to when you're seeing kids work and you realize, okay, they need more support, not just they need to try again, but this idea of, you know what, I got to come at this with some more instruction. And so the idea of differentiation and additional support become big. And so whether you have a second mini lesson, a second conversation with a small group or one-to-one, meet with students who all have this same weakness. And I'll tell you what, in today's world with that whole idea of the gap in learning, the learning loss everyone's talking about, and how to accelerate, this idea of an additional conversation, lesson instruction would be huge. You could also offer help sessions. Now, I've got it set up here with the idea of it could be a digital, when we were all a virtual pandemic life, and so my help sessions were, an extra meeting, an extra Zoom, an extra Google Meet or whatever it might be. But just the idea that you're available. Compare this to college and the professor's office hours. Like, he's just there. My teacher's just, I know I can log on at any point and get support. And obviously, you set those times, all right? It's not all the time, every day, and all weekend long. But just that idea that if you said you're going to be there or available, that while they're working, you are available. And of course, then it might also mean changing, differentiating, customizing the tasks you're asking them to do. And again, this is where special ed and resource and title, EL, everybody's voice matters in helping the teacher best accommodate for that student. And I know Writable has some pieces that honor this kind of differentiation. So give us the quick info on that, Kira.
All right. Yeah, if we're running really close to the top of the hour, so if we'll go ahead and start that video, I'll just quickly share with that one of the things that we have inside Writable are differentiated assignments. Those are built into the platform. You also have the ability to make it. In this example, we have 3 different scaffolds of the same reading. On the left-hand side, you can see that it has different readings for Lexile levels. We have the Spanish. On the right, you can see that we have a planner. Inside the planner, different scaffolds have different levels of supports. This one has some sentence starters. Then on this draft, you can actually see where if you go over the sentence starter, you can see some additional help. It has the checklist on the planning, and then we're looking at analyzing, understanding, organizing, and revising the writing through the differentiation of assignments. So that's a real quick overview of differentiation, Kristina. The next thing that we have too is we're pretty much at the end of the time, but I wanted to make sure we knew that we have all these resources for you. This is the link. I know Tess has been putting that in there multiple times. I think we want to go ahead and stop right now and see if we have any other questions that we'd like to take. We are very, very close on time, but so thankful that everybody's been here. Okay, Tess, I'm going to send it back to you.
Hi, what a wonderful job you both did. That was great, ladies. Thank you so much. Not too many questions, just a couple. Some questions came up from multiple people on exploring learning versus clear parameters and some fear around advocating for critical thinking that can be sabotaged by constant writer feedback, and is it an echo chamber of the teacher's mindset? So there was a little fear around that constant feedback loop cycle. Were the boundaries too strict? So I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that, or I know there's a lot of research behind it as well too. So your words today weren't just your thoughts; they came from a place of research and an informed thought. So, yeah.
Kara, I have a comment, or an answer, unless you have something to say.
No, I'm good. I want to hear what you have to say.
Okay, so Tess, if you would take us back to the slide at the beginning with the 9 opportunities. I think the questions out there about echoing the teacher, just what the teacher wants. Okay, I'm having a couple thoughts. First, all the more this teacher and what this teacher wants or thinks doesn't matter. It's about how this helps the reader. And this teacher may not actually like it, but a reader needs it. So I think that's important, that the kids aren't hearing my teacher wants me to make this change. No, the readers need this. That's one way to kind of honor that fear, that concern of echoing teacher talk. But let me give you a more practical, and that is that when you set up the assignment, whatever the assignment or the task is, hey, the teacher, these are 9 possible opportunities for feedback. Whether it's in person or it's via Writable, maybe during reading, it's from the kids, it's peers. Maybe after reading, it's maybe during reading, it's the teacher and a self. And the self comes first. They self-evaluate, and then the teacher chimes in. In other words, I'm not squashing their thinking. This was their original thoughts and their reflections on their own thoughts before I come in. So I totally agree. I was talking a lot about the teacher feedback because I know that's where most of us kind of live, and I'm trying to get us to give feedback faster when it does come from us. But you know what? You're absolutely right. Those of you that question that, it doesn't have to come from the teacher all the time. The peers and the individual himself. So the teacher is just one row, 3 of the 9 opportunities. And if the teacher doesn't say, I like it, I think this is good, then it's not about the teacher. It's the teacher is simply communicating what readers need, what readers are looking for. So use that language. Such a great question.
Mm-hmm. I want to add to that, Kristina, in Writable that I didn't mention during the videos is just that peer and self-review. We have those sentence stems in there to help them really think focused about their feedback in alignment to the teacher's expectations. They can use your compliment cards to put that into, even I think the students could use those compliment cards to give compliments to their peers. Also, when they're reading each other's writings, that also improves their own writing process. So I think that whole feedback loop, like I said, it feels kind of rigid. I heard some of the comments too in chat. It felt a little bit rigid, but it's not as rigid as it seems because so much feedback is coming from students, self-review, peer review, teacher review, conversations, even, just in the hallways when they're talking about the writing. And then I don't know. I just think there's a lot of opportunity for feedback in our lives in general, and it's something that writing is a great place for it to be documented.
I think one more facet of that is the before. That look at the time between the 3 columns of sources or process. So before, then there's a lot of time before the during feedback, and that time frame is all individual student critical thinking, making your own choices, kind of a thing before a formal opportunity to do that during feedback. So looking at how much time you're allowing for kids to do the very critical thinking, exploratory thinking you're wanting, that would be a factor too.
Well, thank you both. That was really the major point of conversation and question that came up during the presentation. I think you really answered everyone's questions along the way too, which was just fantastic. Make sure to check out Writable. We've dropped the links in there. You can create a free teacher account and start exploring feedback. We know teaching writing and motivating students can be a challenge. Only 27% of students are proficient in writing at 4th, 8th, and 12th grade. Writable is a comprehensive writing program built to help you grow great writers. Whether you have a writing curriculum already in place or you're starting from scratch, Writable can help unify your writing program by scaffolding instruction and supporting students with the help they need most. Writable is a research-backed solution. Scaffolded writing practice that connects to instruction increases the quality of feedback. Better feedback creates better revision, and better revision is the key to writing growth. With Writable, you get access to over 600 reading and writing assignments, including popular assessments, readings and media from our partners, and your HMH curriculum is available inside Writable too. You can also create your own assignments and rubrics. Assignments include side-by-side readings and student-friendly rubrics with comment stems to help guide feedback. Students can submit audio, video, images, or digital writing, and even use Google Docs. As students write and review, you'll find insightful data and reports on how students are growing as writers. Writable's feedback engine includes teacher grading tools and filters to save time, audio and video feedback, guided peer and self-review, live feedback for conferencing, and multiple types of AI-powered feedback and revision recommendations, originality check, and soon, an assistive scoring and targeted commenting tool. Writable is easy to use, and rosters, grades, and assignments sync with your favorite tech. Writable is research-backed, award-winning, and used by over 10,000 schools and districts. Create a free teacher account and get started today. Check out the wonderful resources from Smekens Education. There's so much PD available on her website. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us on social media or via email. And thank you all so much for attending today. It's been fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,